all. So you say it for one. You have to say it for all.
Time to sneak it in my candy bar.
Hey,
Thank you so
you've had a
much.
kind of a hard job this last few months.
It's not
Are you
getting
doing
any
okay?
easier.
I know. Well, this, the rest of the commissions just said, Chris is asleep.
You know, it's just raise taxes, or don't people get the cost of living
People
increase?
just don't understand how well we have it. How good they got. All right, thanks for your words. See you.
See you. We've saved all our tough questions for you. I'm going to send them right. I'm going to point to you. Oh, you'll be fine. I have candy bars in here. That's what you.
Okay, we have General Services and Fleet Management. We have Director Nancy Whittemore. And we're just going to continue with our fiscal 2018-2019 operating budget hearing. And Director Whittemore, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have with me tonight Stacy Wall, who is the Assistant Director for Fleet, and Laurel Creech, who is Assistant Director for Sustainability. The FY budget request that we have is very straightforward. The request is for $500,000 for building operations at the new police headquarters and the Family Safety Center. This translates into about $452,000 for utilities and professional services and $48,000 for a parking lot lease. We all know that this will not adequately fund the building operations at this site, but we're doing everything we can do to make this work. We'll continue to manage our budget for savings for evaluating current services and opportunities for adjustments. Just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that we do in order to look at savings. Recently, we identified operational savings by doing a deep dive into the energy consumption at the Bellevue Library. Through the installation of sub-meters and a new device called eGauge, the department's sustainability team studied the library's energy consumption patterns and trends while adjusting HVAC, lighting, and other settings to reduce energy utilization. This resulted in a 15% energy reduction with a projected annual savings of $6,000. Our next step at this site would be to invest in solar panels, which this would get us closer to zero energy for the library. We will continue to work on reducing energy consumption in our other facilities that we manage. I also want to speak briefly about the direct impact on the fleet operating budget. We all know that fuel prices are going up. This time last year, Metro's cost for regular unleaded fuel was $1.57, and for diesel was $1.63. Yesterday, we were paying $2.11 for gasoline and $2.41 for diesel. Looking back to this time last year, our fuel expenses were approximately $665,000 for the same period, less last year for the same period this year. Metro's average fuel consumption is 3 million gallons of fuel each year, and with a million gallons being gasoline. Equipment repairs are a large portion of the fleet operating budget. Today we have 36 equipment mechanic positions, 12 are vacant. 18 automotive mechanics, 2 are vacant, 2 mechanic apprentice, which are going through background checks, and then 2 non-equipment services with 2 vacancies. As you can see, our challenge in the hiring process is with our mechanics at the heavy shop, and to address these vacancies and volumes of repairs, we have been sending equipment out to local vendors like Cumberland International, Neely Coble, Mack of Nashville, Freeland, Wyatt Johnson, and Carl Black. Just so we're clear, our preference is to do these repairs in-house if we can, but there's times we have to look at other alternatives. Fleet management has been meeting with departments to identify and discuss underutilized vehicles, and there are plans to address this issue. Departments are planning to reassign overutilized vehicles in place and swap out with the underutilized vehicles. We currently have a commitment from Public Works, Health, Human Services, Human Resources, and General Services to reduce their fleet size. Now that we've completed this initial fleet discussion, we will do a cost analysis of other alternatives for departments to consider in efforts to reduce the overall fleet size, including car sharing, rental programs for seasonal use, individual programs like Lyft and Uber for employees. In regards to take-home vehicles, we have 823 take-home vehicles that have been identified by departments, and all have submitted justifications for those. 80% of the 823 are police, which we would expect. In closing, I just want to say thank you to the General Services employees and their efforts to be proactive in identifying cost savings during a tight budget year. This staff does a great job throughout the year. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. Director, thank you. So I'm going to ask you one of the questions I've asked several other departments. The staff that works in your department, were they expecting a cost of living adjustment this year?
They were expecting a cost of living.
And what about next year?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that, I mean, that's a pretty standard answer from everyone. I want to go back, and because I asked the fire department the other day, and I've asked the police this question. Where are we with regards to reserves on equipment for fire, for police, and getting those things done through the operational budget? And Chair, if you will, indulge me for a second, because I want to talk about getting the equipment repaired and getting it back out. Where are we with regards to getting the equipment repaired, back out on the streets, to where the men and women who are first responders actually are able to have that equipment operational and don't have to worry about, is it going to work or not?
Well, let me just say this. We know that our fleet is beginning to age. We know that we have a lot of pieces of equipment that are high mileage, and we know that equipment's being used, over and over. And so do we have repairs that have to be done that's, overloading our garage? At times we do that, and I'll let Stacy speak a little more to that. But, we do a good job in getting things back to departments. Now, a lot of times we may get a piece of equipment that brought in for just a what may be a simple repair to someone, but once we get that piece of equipment in the garage, then we do a safety check, we go over the equipment, and there's times we have to keep it in there longer than others. We also, when you're sending equipment, if it goes out to, especially the big repairs, we like to, if we're going to send something out to a outside vendor, we'll send the larger repairs out to that, because then it's under warranty, and if we have an issue, we can send it back. But it does take time. So I can go over the fire department, their reserves. I don't know if you have that information or not, and where we are with reserves for the fire department. Would you like that information? Or?
I mean, yes, I have some of that, because I've been asking, but
Right.
but I mean, I think the other council members probably would like to see that. So let's go. Well, and if you don't, rather than at the risk of, I don't want to waste everybody's time on the floor. So please send it to us if you could via email, or however you want to do it, Chair. All right. So when the fire department had its own department where they were doing their own repairs, versus once it all got consolidated into General Services, what's been the response time on getting equipment back out for the fire department versus when they were doing their own?
All I could do is, we can go back to that original audit that was done and the condition of the equipment at that time. I don't recall what the response time is, but in our conversations with the fire department, we are being told that the fleet is in better condition than it's ever been. They understand, and we work closely with them. They actually have a staff member that is at our heavy shop, and when a piece of equipment comes in for repairs, we sit down, we go through all the repairs that are needed. We prioritize that with that person. We even make decisions, because if they're bringing it in and there's a something minor, like so many lights are out, but there's enough for it to still be safe, then we may say bring that back in at a later time once we have the parts in. So we work very closely with them in making decisions on how repairs come and what's priority, and looking at reserves and making sure we have the number of reserves on the street.
Okay. Let's flip over to police real fast, if we may. So over the last 12, 18 months, there was a time when various zones were not being covered properly because police cars were down, and we didn't have enough cars in order for the officers to actually cover all the zones that needed to be done. So they were doubling up personnel is what ended up happening, and it stretches very thin. Where are we in that category now as far as making sure that every zone is covered, that we have enough automobiles out there, and taking care of the citizens in Nashville with regards to the operational vehicles, and making sure that our police and fire are able to respond in an appropriate manner?
Right. We know police cars are high mileage. We have some that have as much as 200,000 miles on it. And through the capital plan, we've got cars on order. We have more that's going to be ordered. By the time we get all those in, we should have, our highest mileage should be around 100,000. We don't assign cars. We just give them to the police department, and then they make those decisions on what zones cars are in and who's in a car and that kind of thing. So we know that there's times that, police are saying they need more cars, and so that's just a function of money, getting more cars purchased through the capital process.
Right. Well, all of this stuff is a function of money. That's why we're here right now.
That's right.
So, and I'm going to refer this back to several years ago with an MTG audit that was done under the Purcell administration. Do you guys do, in general services, do you do a similar audit of all of the emergency equipment that we try to operate on a daily basis for the citizens of Nashville? Because you just said something that concerned me, where we have police cars that have almost 200,000 miles on it. Mm-hmm. I would hate to think we're in the middle of something that could be catastrophic for the city, and all of a sudden they've got to pull on the side of the road. That would be a bad situation. So do we have an audit process to figure out what's working well, what may need to have some tender loving care, and what needs to be put off to the side of the road?
Absolutely. Anytime a vehicle's brought in, we do that safety check. We go through the vehicle. If there's an issue that we feel like the car is unsafe, or if an officer is telling us something's wrong with the car, we would automatically pull that car out of service and address those issues at that time.
And so if we go through the capital budget, the capital improvement budget, will we see recommendations from your department on the number of vehicles that should be replaced, and the cost of those things? And you don't know, this is operational, so I'm just saying, as we go through that budget, will we see those numbers, and will we understand those?
We have a replacement plan, and the last time we talked about this, to replace everything that's on that replacement list based on the criteria, we would need anywhere from $80 to $85 million.
Okay, well, and I'll close with this. We have hard decisions to make. Again, the first responders should be a top priority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Councilman Cooper, at large.
At large, thank you, Chair Lady. And thank you, Director, for being here. A couple of questions on your facility operations role as GSA. GSA is the landlord for any third-party leases? Any lease, any space that GSA?
Now, the the lease is developed in the Department of Finance in the public property, and then if it is a general services, let's say at Parkway Towers, then we do have some function there as far as if they want to build out their space, then we would provide that for them. But the maintenance and everything, it depends on each lease too, and the maintenance would be provided by that landlord.
By that landlord? Well, it was more a question of how many or what leases, in two directions. One, do you lease space to third parties, Metro space to third parties? Like that, isn't there a charter school that GSA built and lease?
That's correct. There's KIPP Academy, and so that building, and there was an addition to that building, and we do have a lease agreement for operational costs with KIPP Academy.
So how many leases like that do we have?
For us, there's, there may be 2 or 3 of those, but I can get that list and get that to you so you can see what those are.
Okay.
But KIPP Academy, and we've done some things with STEM, but KIPP Academy is our major one.
That's where you're the major landlord.
That's correct.
And that revenue shows up as program revenue or non-program revenue? In the budget?
It comes back to the general fund, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't even pass through
Right.
GSA?
Right.
Really? Okay. So your name is on the deed, so to speak, or on the lease, so to speak, okay? Then how much space does Metro lease from third parties?
I don't have that information. Again, that would be done through the finance department,
Okay.
public property.
So, okay, so you all are just consulted from time to time, but fundamentally that is the finance department.
correct.
That would have that lease. Super great. One last question. When will the jail be finished?
It will be completed in June of 2019.
Okay.
And so then we will start the punch lists and getting things ready. And then the sheriff, I think he's going to run dual systems during that time. So we anticipate them to be in that building late of 2019 or early, depending on how that goes.
And still under budget? On budget?
Well, we're still within the budget we have. We're evaluating some things that are going on at that property. So there may be some, we're looking at, of course, contingency and some other issues, but we will, we'll be evaluating that, but we're doing very well.
Okay, thank you. And if you just mind just listing them off, the significant construction projects that you all are supervising right now, I think that'd be a help to show the scope of what you all are dealing with.
Of course, we have the jail, and we've got the police headquarters, the Family Safety Center. We're starting the Bellevue Community Center along with the Fort Ice. We have Bellevue Fire Station. We have the Hermitage Fire Station. And we will start the Donaldson Library once the rest of that funding's available. We're finishing up the Commerce Garage on Commerce Street, so that's finishing up this week. We've got some other projects with police, like at the Police Training Academy. So there's quite a bit going on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Cooper. Vice Chair Schulman at large.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just want to note for the record that Councilman Cooper used the word super great during his last answer. Okay, I wrote it down. Director, let me ask you, because I walked in right when you were talking about the vacancies, and I've been asking about those things. So I'm just checking my numbers. According to the sheet that we got, it had been split by, I guess, the GSD General and then Office of Fleet Management. So I don't know if you have the totals, but with the first group, which is mainly, I guess, the administrative, well, I'm not sure if it's all administration, GSD General, they listed 12 vacancies. Is that about right? Mm-hmm. 12 out of the 49? Okay. And then on the Fleet Management, I think we had listed 31. Is that about right?
That's right.
Okay, so that's 31 out of the 163 full-time.
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay, so my question is, obviously we have vacancies in these things, but we've got them still listed. But you also said because of the vacancies, we have to contract stuff out, right, to get this stuff done. So for purposes of just understanding this budget, do we have money built in for pursuing those contracts outside if we don't have the staff available to do the work?
Yes.
Okay, so we have, so we've got money built in through the professional services part to pay for those services if we don't fill those positions.
Well, that's correct. I mean, we manage that money. We can't have both. So we manage that money. So if we don't have the positions filled, then we look at what we can use to send out to vendors.
Okay, I guess my question would be, if you have vacancies, do you use the vacancy money to pay for the services?
We use below the line money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. That's what I was looking for. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. I wanted to ask, as far as your staffing, if you look at being broken into kind of fleet management, building operations, sustainability, and administration, I see fleet operations or fleet management rather broken out pretty clearly in your staff listing. But can you tell me how many people work in building operations, sustainability, and administration?
In the Office of Sustainability, we have 3 staff. In administration, we have eBid, which I think there's 5 staff there. Printing services, which is 1. We have our HR division, which has 2 people. We have our financial division that has 4 people, or 5 people, I guess I should say. And then we have, so that makes up the administration part of that. And then when you get into building operations, we have our maintenance group. So we have an assistant director, a manager, 2 zone managers, and then we have about 4 maintenance guys, and then we have the contracts with Lead Company and those folks that subsidize our maintenance activities.
Okay, so you have about 4 maintenance staff, and then everything else is kind of contractual, like
That's correct.
HVAC and so forth.
That's correct.
And so, but at the management level, you said you had those 3 people are managing those 4 people, or they're managing all those contractual
They're managing the contracts. We have our HVAC contracts, elevators, pest control, janitorial. So there's a number of contracts that they are responsible for and manage.
Okay, so they're just kind of like a subject area specialist or something.
That's correct.
So forth. They're just kind of keeping track with those. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And let me see. I think I had one more question, Chair Vercher. Apologize.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Just within sustainability, let's see from that listing, what are those 3 just job descriptions or?
The 3 positions are the assistant director, there is an energy efficiency and energy manager. That's Freddie Adam. And Jennifer Westerholm is our education and outreach for sustainability program coordinator.
Okay. And then last budget season, Director, you were kind to send me, I think, kind of a breakout related to fleet on what you were doing with hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, mowers and otherwise in that sustainability space related to fleet. So I think you created that last year. I don't know if you could just sort of update that for this year and if that's something you could just send to us.
Absolutely. We will send that, and I also wanted to let you know that we went ahead and did the House My Driving stickers, and so those decals are going on cars. We worked with the hub so that they can call 311 if there's an issue with the driving. Then they will report to us the decal number, all the information that we need, and then we will work with departments in getting a response on that incident. So that is going on all the new cars, and then as existing cars are coming in, we're putting those decals on too.
That's excellent. I really do appreciate that. Just for the general public, that was something that came up at last hearing last year, but holding kind of our Metro folks that are driving those cars accountable for maintaining the speed limit and, following our rules of the road. And I appreciate that. And then I will put into that space as well, that also provides us the opportunity to share and do some education around our 3-foot rule for bicycles. And so I appreciate the How's My Driving. I think that's key. That's holding folks accountable. But I would ask us also to look at, I know we don't want to junk up our fleet, but particular to some of the rules of the road that can be challenging that we need to kind of educate around. I would ask that we kind of continue to consider how we might use the fleet to convey that message to the community. So thank you so much for that follow-up. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Council Lady. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for all y'all do. And I appreciate the sustainability group because we keep talking about recycling things that I hope we can get off the ground soon. I think that's an important effort as well. To go back to the vacancies amongst the mechanics, do y'all have any kind of apprenticeship program or partnership with Nashville Auto Diesel College? Is there a way to fill that gap in a way that also addresses the other needs of?
Well, let me tell you what we've done since last year, because we did talk about apprenticeship, and we have 2 apprenticeships that we're filling now. And so those people are just going through the background check, and we hope they're on board within probably the next week or 2. One of the things that we've worked with is with the high schools that have the auto programs. We've gone to them, and we've visited with them. How many times, Stacy? 2 or 3 times, talking about what we do in fleet, how we can get those folks involved. And unfortunately, we've had 0 response. We've talked to principals, we've talked to the instructors, and so we have been very disappointed that that's not taken off, but it's something we would very much like to do. We've looked at interns also. But the apprenticeship, we're hoping that will be those positions we can use to develop mechanics, and grow them within Metro. What we find is, people come in and they get their skill set, then the next thing we know, they're gone on the heavy shop side. So it has been a challenge for us, but we continue to work with HR on ideas around recruitment too.
And maybe, is there any way to have any kind of retention, something in the contract that, similar to paying for people's medical school to go serve in underprivileged areas or whatever? As we do the apprentice program, is there a way to get some kind of an obligation for some kind of longer retention for them?
Oh, you mean in the contract when they come in as Metro employees? I don't know if that's something we can do. That would be an HR question that we would have to ask.
Gotcha.
I know there's been times when if you paid for someone to go to a master's program or college, then they would have to serve so many years, in your department. But I don't know that we have that authority to do that as we hire.
Gotcha. And who's that apprenticeship program that you do have with?
It will be, we're hiring people to come in, and then it will be internally with our staff.
Gotcha.
Because one of the things that we've talked about, and I think we talked about this last year, and we actually increased our tool allowance from I think it was $300, we went to $1,000 a year. But so as they come in as an apprentice, they won't necessarily have to have all the tools, and then they can work along the side with our mechanics and gain the kind of skill sets that they need and start getting the certifications and everything, and hopefully they will get bought into Metro and want to have a long career here.
That sounds like a great program. And where do you recruit those apprentices from? How do you identify them?
We actually just advertised it through the regular process that we have, and so we did get a response, and we have 2 that are coming on board.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that's working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. So in listening to some of the responses, I'd like to drill down a little bit harder on the fuel cost. and I'm going to actually ask a dual question to you and to finance. We began the hedging on this. Does that not control where we are with regards to the cost of fuel, and are we not able to have a better handle on that from budget year to budget year?
Absolutely. Hedging has been a budget management, I guess, for fuel, but all of our fuel is not actually under the hedging program. And so I was just giving a kind of where we were last year versus this year. And is diesel under the hedging? Some of our diesel is under hedging, but not all of it. So it's not 100% under that agreement.
So I'm going to ask finance, why isn't all of it under it?
What we do is we sit down and we have actually a fuel hedging policy that caps the amount that we can put into the hedging.
Dictated by the banks or by who?
This is a Metro policy. It's not dictated through the banks or anything.
Okay. Well, I'm just wondering because I'm trying to understand.
And the hedging contract, I mean, over the years, it has proven a good budget management tool and has been good for the city. And MTA is also a part of that contract.
As is the City of Franklin still, right?
City of Franklin, as is Metro Schools.
Right.
And so when we want to go out to the market, we always bring those parties together and talk about the timing. And literally we sit down and analyze how many gallons that we want to anticipate hedging over a particular period.
And do we do that over a 1 year, 2 year? I'm trying to remember the length on those.
There's really not a set amount of time. When we see the market moving, then we will convene to see if the timing is right for us to lock in some particular rates.
Okay. So let me ask you, if I may, Director, if we moved back to fleet management by police and by fire, do we have any idea what the additional cost would be? I mean, do we have a true cost savings versus getting the automobiles and the engines back out in service in a bit more rapid of a response time?
I don't know that taking it back would increase the response time, getting them back into service. Anytime you look at consolidation, when you have multiple garages across the county, then that's equipment. I mean, you have to just multiply what we have centrally located, lifts and all the computerized equipment that we use for diagnostics and those kinds of things. So, you know, we haven't done an analysis on how, you know, where we are today versus where it was, you know, since we've consolidated. Now, we know our cost. I mean, we have detailed information on our cost records, what it costs us to, you know, on each piece of equipment. So there's times, though, you know, there's wrecks, there's things that happen that also delay those pieces of equipment getting back into. But going back to the old system would cost us money. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. 2 more questions, Chair. Evaluating the cost of the jail, and I realize that's a capital piece, but I mean, there's been obviously operational costs because we're maybe going a bit longer than anticipated, et cetera. Can you, and I want to be very cautious how I ask this question, can you give us what the original budget was versus what you think we're going to land on for the capital piece when we get ready to convene for the capital budget?
I don't have that information right now.
Well, that's why I'm asking, can you give it to us before we convene? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, final question. Help me understand paying for overtime below the line. Tell me what that means, please.
No, it wasn't paying for overtime. It was paying for vendors. When we send vehicles out to a vendor, then we use below-the-line operational money to pay for those repairs.
Okay, well, help us understand what below the line means.
Everything but salaries. I'm sorry.
Okay, everything but salaries. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Council Lady Dow.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about, I know that you guys oversee that Southeast Regional Park space, the Recreation Center, and I know that we have a lot of space down at the bottom that's not being utilized, and I was wondering, I've had quite a few people ask about utilizing that space. They wanted to pay and use it for summer programs. Is that an option?
Is it part of the Metro?
Is it done through you, since it's not, built out right now? It's just, space. But I've had people to ask about renting and using that space, and that's a way of generating some revenue just for the summertime for like youth programs. And I was just wondering, is that an option with some of the space that we have that's not being utilized?
We have never rented out space, general services property. Anytime if there's a function, we would charge for, security or janitorial, those kinds of things. So I don't, it'd be something that we could sit down and talk with parks or library and see, and I need to know exactly what space you were talking about and what that would entail. But from a general services standpoint, we have never charged a fee for using our space.
Okay, the reason why I ask, because I know at the South, we run the programs in the summertime for the youth, and that program fills up pretty fast because we're limited with space. And there's been an interest among some other groups that offer programs to young people in the summertime. Most of these are nonprofits, and they're looking for space to utilize. I do know that if they utilize one of our public schools, they charge them a fee per day. And they're looking for, I know the demand for that summer program is very high, and it's not a lot of space. And I was wondering if, there's any opportunity, maybe not this summer, but next summer, to potentially utilize some of that space that's downstairs.
Oh, you're talking about space down under the building.
Right, that's
well, we are storing a lot of things in there now, so I don't know what the availability, but we can certainly have a conversation about that and see if there's something that would be applicable to what you're talking about.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Dow. Councilman Withers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Whittemore, just wanted to maybe follow up a little bit on Councilmember at-large John Cooper's question with regard to third-party space that is being leased for Metro functions. The Sheriff's Office Administrative Headquarters building is proposed to go down on South Fifth, and I know that currently they are in some space in District 8, and I know Councilmember Van Reese is happy to have him up there. Do we know the status of the demolition of the Jerry Newsom Center and the potential construction of the new headquarters to consolidate some of those functions in that space on South Fifth?
Yeah, the contract has been signed, so there's meetings that are beginning on looking at finishing up the design work there. Demolition will be going out on the street, and so we should start seeing, we've got to do surveys, we've got to do environmental, so there's some things we have to do before we can actually do the demolition. But activity on that property, you should start seeing that fairly soon. But we have started the process, and we're moving forward now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Withers. Councilman Bettany.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Mike Jemison a couple of questions? Mr. Jemison, regarding that state law, are we responsible for the people we capture until we give it to the federal government?
So under the state law, the state could no longer refrain from enforcing federal immigration provisions, and that is the objection by a lot of state and local municipalities. Local police forces that aren't equipped, don't have the budget to take on additional immigration enforcement activities, are being handed an unfunded mandate to suddenly enforce immigration provisions. So
yeah, but are we responsible to hold them until the immigration judge sees them?
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Whittemore, can you give me a price? I'm going to say that we have about 10,000 undocumented immigrants in Nashville. So I'll need you to give me a quote on housing 10,000 people next year in decent conditions that meet the law. Also, I will need to know how we are going to address when, let's say, a student gets arrested in a school, where they are going to put him in, or if somebody is arrested in a healthcare facility or any public building that we own, are we going to dedicate or refurbish a space for that person to be in detention until somebody can come pick it up? The other question will be, are we responsible to creating these spaces for immigration judges? I'm sure we're going to have more of those judges. Jameson, are we responsible for that?
no, not for the additional funding of judges, no.
Okay, so we may need to look into also housing places for these trials to happen. And then there is the issue of family separation. Do we have enough capacity when a family gets separated? Who's going to be looking after the kids? Do we have enough beds for these kids to be housed as their parents are arrested in deportation proceedings? So I need you to give me a quote on building all these facilities. The law kicks in January 1st, so we need to be ready by then to implement. Mr. Jameson, we don't have the right not to follow this law, right?
That is correct.
So I think this should be a priority. We don't want to be in violation of the state law. So we need to have capacity to probably hire more police officers and have them in different police stations. We'll probably need more vehicles to carry these police officers in all these immigration raids. I'm guessing we'll need more housing capacity unless we can make a deal with the private jail system. Do you know how much does it cost to house people in jail?
No, I don't.
Well, if you can get me a price, just talk to them to see how much will it cost to house about, I don't think we have to house 10,000 people at the same time, but, you know, you can phase it in, I guess.
Well, what I'll do is refer, I mean, we are not, those programmatic kinds of issues, we would not be making those decisions if someone comes to us and you know, if the administration or council, whoever appropriates money to do those kinds of things, we would certainly make that happen. But
So how do we know the price if we don't have a quote?
Well, if
how much to appropriate?
I can tell you a square foot price on housing or something like that, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, we need to start working appropriating this money or we won't be able to meet this state law.
Okay.
So if you can, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly the extent of how to implement this. Maybe Jameson or the mayor's office can help us figure out how to implement this law. But I think we are in a hurry because, like I said, this kicks in January 1st. So the sooner you can start working on getting us those prices, the people that we need to hire, it's not your job, that will be with the chief of police. But then housing those police officers, the vehicles, the arresting people, keeping people in detention, I guess, in all these different public facilities as our employees start being tasked with arresting people. And also facilities for families to wait as the proceedings happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bettany. Council Lady Hurd at large.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is really about, well, I have two. One is about the, I imagine that the detailing of the fleets comes in your personal services budget. Is that where, I don't see where it's listed. You know, car detailing or your, to wash the cars and maintain them, the appearance of them, not necessarily the repair.
Each department is responsible for maintaining that for the vehicles that are assigned to them. We have a contract with some of the car washes. So if it's like a police car or a sedan, they can actually take that through the car wash and get it cleaned up there. If it's a large piece of equipment, we have a truck wash out at the heavy shop. And so those pieces of equipment, like dump trucks and those, would actually go through that car
So
wash.
does that go through procurement in order for those contracts to be facilitated?
Yes.
Okay. And the other thing is the demographics of your department in terms of your leadership team. Do you have any numbers on the demographics?
Well, we have three assistant directors, and two of those are women, and then Stacy is a man, so that's it for us.
So do you have any people of color?
We do. With Laurel, the energy manager that we were talking about, he is actually does a terrific job. He's his dad's an immigrant, not him. So, but he and we have others. I mean, if you'd like to see that breakout, I'd be happy to share that with you.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Lady Hurd. Before I go to our last Council Lady, Karen Johnson, I'm seeing a decline in revenue. Can you speak to that on the program side?
Can you repeat your question?
I'm seeing the charges and fees.
Oh, that is the internal service fees, and there was a reduction in that in the low cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council Lady Karen Johnson.
Thank you, Chair Vercher. Director Whittemore, thank you for everything you do. You have a long-term history of being fiscally smart and managing the resources that you have, and you've done that incredibly well, and we appreciate your leadership in this very important department. My question is coming on behalf of some of our handicapped and senior citizens within Antioch, Southeast Nashville. This is in reference to the library, the new library in the Hickory Hollow area. This past, well, we've gone through it just now recently. I've had people ask, are we going to look at adding a access point where people do not have to walk or use their wheelchair to go all the way down the sidewalk into those main doors into the Southeast Community Center and Library Complex. There is, you know, where they park on the side, has there been any efforts being made to look at adding an entrance so that those who have problems, our seniors and those who are handicapped, would not have to work as hard to get into that building?
I'm not aware of adding an entrance into the building. We do follow the federal government's ADA requirements, and so the parking and the pedestrian access to the building is in accordance with that. But anytime someone has an issue, we have an ADA coordinator and manager, and I am more than happy. He has lots of expertise in this area, and more than happy for him to work individually with folks in talking about what their issues are and how we might help with that.
Okay, when I was out at the polls, I had many who were handicapped specifically that said why didn't we, in planning that particular building or complex, why did we not have an entrance where they don't have to walk so far to get into the facility? So if we can explore possibly looking at that side entrance where people park their cars, where there was actually handicapped spaces there. If we could look at how we can maybe give them a closer access into that library, that would be greatly appreciated.
We're happy to look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council Lady Johnson. Director Whittemore, thank you so much for your staff and the service that you do for this great city. If Metro Water, if you can begin making your way down, that concludes your budget hearing.